Welcome to everyone. This is our Lunch with a Leader for March, and our speaker will be Angelica Gurule, and a coming events kind of thing that I do tell people when I know it. So next month in April on the 20th is our annual meeting where we actually are getting a new president and new other officers. And this is unbelievable that I'm actually saying this, but we are going to meet both in person as well as hybrid. This is the first time we're doing this since February of 2020. So it's a big event. And right now I'm working with the co-op for people who are going to go to the event, which will be at the Unitarian Church in their meeting room, I guess it's called. You will be able to order a lunch from the co-op. And when I send the next email out about that, our speaker will be Supreme Court Justice Shannon Bacon. She will be on Zoom, which is why I'm telling you that it's sort of a hybrid kind of thing. But you can order lunch or not as you wish. But that is what we will be doing. So with no more talking from me, it's your turn, Angelica.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angelica Gurule, and I have just a brief presentation to share with you. Just because why not? Let's see. I'm not able to share though. Is it because of the recording? Okay, there we go. Alrighty, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see it. Although you're not in presentation mode.
There we go. Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm Angelica Gurule, and I was born and raised in the beautiful Espanola Valley, as Steve Stucker always says. And that's where all my family has lived for hundreds of years. I graduated with my master's. I have a dual master's in sustainable environmental resource management and information science and technology from the University of Malta and James Madison University out in Virginia. So that was a neat opportunity where I got to do a study abroad, and both of the schools had a collaboration. So I got to study in Malta and interact with the culture there. That was a really eye-opening experience because in Malta, it's a really tiny, tiny island in the Mediterranean. And what you see is you feel like you're on Easter Island because they're literally importing every single thing that they use on that island from another place. They have to desalinize their water. About 50% of it is fresh water and the other 50% is desalinized. They import their energy, fuel to then create electricity. So it was a really unique experience, and it felt like what a great place to learn about sustainability and how to be good stewards of our resources and manage them wisely. They also don't grow very much of their own agriculture, so they're very reliant on external and the global market. So that was, made me think about, I would always think like, okay, if ships stopped coming into Malta, we wouldn't have food for very long. So it helps you to start thinking about sustainability in a different way. I'm a mother of a 10-year-old son. His name is Alexander Luca, and he goes to school down in White Rock. So we come up to school and work every day. So I feel like even though I don't live here, I'm very passionate about our community and what it offers. And I'm, feel very fortunate to work here. I've worked at the county for 9 years in the Environmental Services Division. And I was most recently hired to be the county sustainability manager. So I love working with the environment. And I think my passion since I was a young girl was to care about our planet. And I love working with our community members, our board members and League of Women Voters and all the other groups that really care about the community and want to make a difference. So my new role as the county's sustainability manager, this came out as part of the Los Alamos Resiliency, Energy, and Sustainability Task Force, also known as LARES or LASER. So it was a group of citizens that were really concerned about what we were going to do as a community to start focusing our efforts on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and just to really have a centralized plan that looked at all aspects of environmental stewardship, right? Energy conservation, water conservation, waste, caring for our forests, things like that. So the county, I think as a whole, is doing really good things, but more like in isolation, right? So we have Atomic City Transit that's working on the bus system, and then environmental services that's working on recycling and reuse and things like that. And then you have the energy side of the house, utilities, that's focused on water conservation and energy production and things like that. So this plan really was to focus on all of it together. So out of LARES, one of their recommendations was to hire a sustainability manager that would help to coordinate all of the greenhouse gas, like coordinate a greenhouse gas baseline study, and then implement the items that came out of the climate action plan. So that's where this role came about. So I was hired back in November, and one of my big tasks is my marching order is to get the greenhouse gas baseline analysis study conducted, and then to working with the consultant to develop a climate action plan. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So some of the current projects that I'm working on, while I'm also working on drafting that agreement, is this one is about a volunteer management software system in a collaboration with the Los Alamos Community Foundation. So we have a subscription for that program. And it's really a way to be like a one-stop shop for the entire community to share volunteer opportunities, or to, if you're, a volunteer, you can look on that site and, and pick opportunities that are interesting to you to volunteer at. So it's through Los Alamos Community Foundation. I think Los Alamos County already has a page, but you'll start to see that being populated. That was just rolled out this past month. And I know many of you, I've seen you volunteering throughout the community. So please look at that site and share opportunities to volunteer, or, start to volunteer there and direct other people there as well. So one of the efforts that came out of my previous role was to implement a food composting program, and the county, through a study, a feasibility study, we found that we could divert a lot of our food waste and yard trimmings if we had a food composting program. So out of that study, it's 1,500 tons of food waste and 3,000 tons of yard trimmings that will be diverted through a food composting program. So that in turn reduces our expenses from hauling that material to the Rio Rancho landfill. It also, reduces the greenhouse gas emissions from that, and also gives our residents an outlet to dispose of their yard trimmings and their food scraps. The benefit of that is by composting food, and many of you probably know this, so in an anaerobic environment where there is no oxygen, food will become methane, and that's very potent greenhouse gas. So by composting it, it turns into carbon instead of methane. So carbon is much less potent, although it is a greenhouse gas. It's not as harmful. That's kind of, I use that term loosely because clearly it's a greenhouse gas, but that's another benefit of composting. And then we'll be able to offer a really high quality compost material to our residents and to other places regionally in the northern part of the state. So we do have people already now coming from all over northern New Mexico to pick up the compost we have. So this will be another great addition for that, except this will be food grade compost. So you'll be able to use it on your fruit and vegetable crops, you know, as well as anything else. But the other compost that we have really should only be used for non-food grade crops. So we're in the design process of the food composting program. The program council decided back in September to approve this item, so September of last year. So we've been working on the design piece. The project will be located in Bio Canyon, and we have cross-referenced with Parks and Rec and some other community uses, and it won't interfere at all with other community uses. And the site is actually directly across the road from the current compost operation, so it'll have a similar use. And as part of the design, we're working to complete an environmental assessment on that project and on that area. So they're working on that as well. It will be using a windrow technology, so we will need equipment to then turn the windrows, build them and turn them. And we looked at different types of technology. For many of you who aren't aware, we looked at like in-vessel technology. We looked at anaerobic digestion, which is a really great technology, but it's really expensive. It was really outside of our budget. So the windrow composting seemed to meet all of our needs, and was the least expensive option. We also looked at different locations. We looked at Bio Canyon, we looked at the Eco Station, and because we rent the property, we lease it from DOE. They had strict requirements on what type of composting we could do up here. They would only allow an in-vessel composting. In-vessel is a great technology, but it is also more expensive than the windrow technology. And then we also looked at Overlook. There was 2 sites at Overlook. Of course, you're close to neighborhoods. You know, there was already previous uses for those properties, so it didn't seem to work well. So we came to the conclusion that Bio Canyon would be one of the better locations for this operation. So we're working on the conceptual design right now with our consultant, and we hope to have something approved soon. Meanwhile, the federal government has been, they have grant opportunities to do, solid waste infrastructure. And we threw our name in the hat. We submitted a federal grant application to fund this project. And it took a lot of effort from myself and lots of people across the county. But to me, it was really important because when I look at projects like this, it's not only good for the environment, but if we could figure out a way to offset those costs from impacting our community, that to me is really meaningful, because I think about our residents all the time and how these rates will trickle down to them. So we're crossing our fingers. Please join with me, because it would be great if we got to pay for that with federal money instead of doing a rate increase for that. But alternatively, if we do not get that grant funding, we will be asking council for a rate increase to pay for that program. So the next project that we're working on is a reuse center at Overlook. So this was another grant opportunity, and it was to take a program that we currently had. And this is kind of a transition. I'm transitioning out of my old role into my new role. So this is one of my last projects, last couple projects that I'll be helping environmental services with. This is the food composting and the reuse center. So the reuse center, the thought process was to provide, I don't know how many of you have been down to Overlook, but we have a convenience center, so you could throw, garbage or yard trimmings, recycle, things like that. Well, what happened kind of organically is people were bringing us their old rocking chairs and their little like dog kennels and fish tanks. And we were getting all these cool little keepsakes that were still in really great condition. So we said, well, what if we had a reuse center at Overlook? I think it would be a hit. I think people would really love it. And we have a reuse center here in Los Alamos. We don't have staff to man it. So it really becomes kind of overrun with trash and, other items. So the thought process is to have it down at Overlook where we do have staff that can help to oversee it. So we got grant funding for that from the New Mexico Clean and Beautiful from the tourism department. And we're planning to reuse a building that we had previously used for something else. And we're going to relocate it down in White Rock at the Overlook Convenience Center. So everything should be done by July 1st, June 30th. So that'll be exciting to see what becomes of it. I can see that becoming a little, place of attraction, just because people like I think people still come and, you'll see them cruise by our reuse center here at the eco station every day. They want to see if there's something cool there. So I think that's with somebody being there as staff and being able to oversee it, we're going to be able to divert a lot of really valuable items out of the landfill. And then my other part right now is to transition our environmental services manager, which is Armando Gabaldon. He was previously our superintendent. So I'm helping him transition into the new role and showing him all the ins and outs about this position, and making sure, he knows all the pieces, right? So we're governed by NMED. We have to stay, follow all the rules and regulations to manage solid waste. And then we have a lot of contracts that keep us going as an operation. So I'm sharing all that information with him. And then, as I mentioned, part of my new role, which is going to be super fun when we get to start it, is to conduct the greenhouse gas baseline analysis and the climate action plan agreement. So we already went out for RFP, which is a request for proposal. That's what the county has to do as a government agency to procure services. So you conduct a competitive solicitation process. And then, we had like 4 or 5 different companies that responded. And then through many questions and conversations, we finally narrowed it down to one consultant. So right now we're working on drafting the climate action plan. And we were hoping to get it before council, before their budget cycle, because then they don't have another meeting from April till May. That's not related to budget. So it's either going to be in April or the first meeting in May that we'll get this item to council. But this item, the purpose of it is to ask them to conduct a baseline greenhouse gas analysis for both the community and for the county. And we wanted to look at them independently, but also we wanted to have information on both, because clearly as a county entity, we can influence county, practices and policies and how we're doing business. So we wanted to have that information, but also the community as a whole is much larger than just the county. So we wanted that information to help to, educate our community on what we can do and what changes we can make as a community to reduce our impact on the environment. So part of that analysis will be a consumption-based analysis. So something like you don't think about, but or maybe you do, but say, for example, you hear the words like buy local. Well, it supports the local economy, but it also reduces your impact on the environment, right? So you don't think about like when you buy bananas that are coming from halfway across the world, or, clothes that's coming from somewhere else. So it's called consumption, greenhouse gas consumption based analysis. So they'll be looking at how our consumption influences our greenhouse gas analysis as well. And it'll look at it by sector. So like the transportation sector, the building sector, how much greenhouse gases are coming out of each of those sectors. And then with that information, it'll help us to come up with actions. What can we do as a county, as a community that is going to support the reduction of greenhouse gases? So that will be the climate action plan. So this will probably be about a full year-long project where they'll do the baseline, and then out of that, it'll drive the actions. And it'll look at the cost of implementing some of the actions. A big piece of it is to gather community input. So I'm so glad I have your attention today, because I'd love to invite you to start, when we do start this process, to come to meetings, to come to open houses, and, give your input about what's important to you as a citizen to reduce our impact on the environment. Let's see. So some future engagement opportunities besides the greenhouse gas analysis project is we have an environmental sustainability board, and it was decided on Tuesday night that board would come with me over to the CMO office. Previously, it sat under Public Works. So now it'll come with me in this new position, and we will be focusing on all environmental sustainability issues and serve as an advisory board to county council on matters of environmental sustainability. So previously it really focused on like solid waste issues, and we had some scope creep issues, like, we ended up working on like the bear dumpsters, and then, also the glyphosate issues. So this opportunity of moving over to CMO will really help us to serve the community better and serve in our full capacity. So we do have a vacancy. If you're interested, please let me know. It's we meet the third Thursday of every month at 5:30, and we do have a hybrid option. So we prefer to meet in person, but if you have to, you can Zoom into the meeting. It's a really fun group of people. We're pretty informal for the most part. We like to have fun and engage with each other and the community. That's where we kind of like pride ourselves, is getting out into the community and sharing information and engaging and hearing back from the community, and kind of, integrating that into the work that we do. As a subset to our board, we have a zero waste team, and this kind of happened. The county has a green team, and then the community, like previous former ESB members, have kind of joined forces, and we created a zero waste team. Our efforts have focused for many years. It was actually our 5-year anniversary. We celebrated that yesterday. We have focused on waste issues. We are looking at rebranding to come into alignment with our new scope of overarching sustainability. So if you have any suggestions for some cool names, please let me know. But the Zero Waste team really focuses on supporting Environmental Sustainability Board, and now also the Board of Public Utilities. So they're working on conservation. That's part of what we'll be working on as well. So we want to support them in those ways. Since the greenhouse gas study and climate action plan will be coming out, that's where we'll be focusing our efforts, really trying to help our community to understand what is climate change, what is a greenhouse gas, what is your carbon footprint. And that's kind of an arbitrary thought to think about carbon and things like that. So we really want to break that down to make it more understandable for the community, and start to let them know that this process is happening and we want their involvement. So you'll see us around town. We're going to start having, and I get tongue twisted, conservation conversations, to start just talking a little bit about this initiative and getting, the community on board to what's happening and coming, wanting to engage and feeling comfortable to engage. So Earth Day's coming up April 22nd, and it's actually on Earth Day. So this is Peak's event. The Zero Waste team will have a booth there. I'll be there as well, representing the sustainability office. So we've come up with a few activities that we're going to do. So please stop by and see us. And then Cleanup Los Alamos Day is April 29th. I think registration for that is open, so you can sign up today for that. So those are a few opportunities to come and hang out or join a team or a board. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And my next slide was just questions. So I'll stop sharing. And I'm out of breath. So do you have questions? I know my position is pretty new and, we're really working on getting this plan going. So I think that'll drive what comes out of this office. So yeah, but I'm here for questions. Kyle?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so when I look around at a lot of the recyclables, the bins that are out on trash day,
Uh-huh.
I see a lot of trash in there. And I wonder, like, how much of our recyclables are just so contaminated that they have to be put into the landfill? And then my second question related to that is there really any market for the plastic? Because we go to quite a bit of effort to recycle plastic because there's just no way to I don't think, to get around it. But do you really find anybody who's willing to take the plastic, or is it just getting transported from place to place? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I feel like that question comes up all the time. But from our understanding, so we send our recycle to Barco, which it used to be Friedman. Friedman sold it to Barco, and Barco is owned by Waste Connections. They're like the third largest hauler in the country. So they process all of the material and sort it in Albuquerque, and then they sell it globally, right? Well, of course, there was a China ban. We all are aware of that, where they said, you can send us your material, but it needs to have, less than 5% or, 0.05% contamination. So they wanted like practically perfect material, which is hard for any organization to get to. So our understanding from the last audit that we had, so they take all of the material, we send them a truckload of it, right, randomly, and then they'll sort it and they'll say, okay, this percentage is cardboard, this percentage is aluminum, plastic, paper, so on and so forth. When the last time they did that study, we had a 17% contamination rate. So out of everything we sent, 17% of it was trash, what they call residual. So we haven't had that study done in a while. I always think that we are doing much better. So I think our contamination rate is probably that or lower. The state contamination rate is like 30%. The country's contamination rate is about 35%. So when we look at our contamination rate of 17%, and I've talked to other solid waste leaders across the state, and they say, do not ask them to redo your number because it's a really good number, right? But I think, we spend a lot of money as a county to educate our community, and it's continuously to educate, right? You get bill stuffers about it, you get magnets, we're at booths. That takes time and effort for the county to do. So we are constantly educating the community about how to recycle right. It's on our roll cart lids. That's an extra expense. We do advertisements. We pay for an app called Recycle Coach, where you can type in an item and it tells you, whether or how an item should be recycled or handled. So, I think our low contamination number is a direct result of all of your efforts. You guys, we have an amazing community, and I know we do because we get questions all the time. What do I do with my lids? What do I do with, you want to do the right thing. So the success of our program is a direct result of a community who cares. So I, thank you all for doing a great job, and keep it up. You might feel discouraged, Kyle, but don't. Just keep doing the right thing. As far as we know, it's all being recycled. It's not being thrown away. And, we get that question sometimes, so we will directly ask Friedman, and they've told us no. They're not throwing it away. So it's not, your efforts are not in vain. I will give a plug for cardboard though. If you do have cardboard, you should use the county's cardboard dumpsters. And the reason for that is because the cardboard goes somewhere separate than the recycle. We send that to Pruitt, New Mexico, to a facility called BioPapel. And BioPapel is our own paper mill within the state. So they do remake paper out of the cardboard. And the county actually gets a small premium for that, versus if we send it over to Barco, we have to pay them, right, to process it and sort it. So I will give a plug for that. If you have extra cardboard, there's dumpsters set up across the county. There's county dumpsters that we've authorized the community to use. So the fire station cardboard dumpsters, I think there's some at PD, there's some over at the municipal building. Please use them. Yeah. And then of course the glass. So we also get, a small premium for glass as well. So yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Just to piggyback off of that question, would you all ever consider like having a different bin for cardboard that goes to each individual house, or like making it so it's more, individualized rather than centralized? Because I'm not sure, like that might get missed a lot in our community with the people coming in and out of, all of the apartment complexes, like students.
Yeah, I think so. Anytime you add an extra truck and a driver on the road, you're adding an expense, right? So every truck costs about $300,000 plus an employee's salary just to pick up cardboard. I'm not sure if that would, you kind of have to do a cost benefit analysis, I think, to do that, because either way it's being recycled. So you just would want to make sure that you understand the full costs of that program before you do it. So yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I have some questions. I agree. I was talking about the cardboard because particularly during the last couple of years, we've been ordering food and, non spoiled type food from Costco. And we have these giant boxes. And so we've been recycling them at Sullivan Field, which is a great place because it's open. Going to the fire station is hard because you have to hold it open and somehow with the other hand put it in, and some people are not crushing it, so that makes it even harder, of course, to get it in. That's just my opinion, but I don't know if it can be left open like this much, so you could just slide the cardboard in. But it's hard. It's hard to do that. But I do anything to save money for this county, so that sounds good. The other thing, I'm sure this is really obvious to everyone except me, but so when you do this food recycling or whatever, where do you put your food while you're waiting for the day that they're coming to pick it up? I mean, how do you do that?
So yeah, so there'll be 2 drop-off locations for food scraps. One will be at the Eco Station and one will be at Overlook Collection Center. And that's to start, right? Like that's not to say if council wanted to add more locations or something, but we will start with those 2 areas. We have control over those already since we have our solid waste facilities there. So we'll be using the bare containers for that, so we don't have any unwanted critters. We're going to equip, one of the plans is if we get the full grant funding is we'll equip our residents with little containers to transport your food scraps in, and then you can drop them in and then take home your container and clean it out. But really you should, you could keep it in the bin, clearly, or you leave it in your fridge until you make that run and then dump everything out together. So yeah.
Are we discouraging the use of garbage disposals? I do send a lot down there. I just do.
Yeah, I can't speak for that because
so I just wondered how
to
do that. I think it's astonishing, seriously, how much waste you have, and I try not to waste it, but things just go bad so quickly sometimes. or you just have peels, you're peeling a carrot or peeling an apple or something. And so I always wondered, like, where would you put that? Because a container that you keep in your kitchen would be this big. How big? I don't know.
I have one about this big. It's like, I don't have an example in here, but in my own kitchen, and we take it out, probably in winter it stays better a little bit longer, but in the summer, you probably need to take it out every 2 to 3 days and empty it out.
So you have to drive to the eco center to do that.
I have my own in my backyard, right? But yeah, you would,
Yeah.
if you wanted to contribute to that, you would drop it off at the eco station. So the thing with food scraps and food waste is, the best thing that we can all do is prevent food waste, right? So stop buying so much food that you're not going to eat. So we did a big campaign about that, and I'm sure many of you had heard it, but 40% of all the food produced in our country is wasted. And that's what that whole campaign kind of spurred people's interest in backyard composting and then food composting. So, but composting is our last effort. The best thing we could do is, reduce the amount of waste that we're creating in the first place. So keep that in mind. Food for thought.
It's like apple trees, peach trees that have thousands of pieces of fruit. You can only, keep so much.
Yeah, well, you can, the ESB and zero waste, we gave away signs that said like, pick me. You could put a little pick me sign in your front yard and allow people to, pick fruit. So that's one way to do something with it, but give it to other people, share it. So just building community in those little ways of it's helping the earth and building community.
Yeah. And I've actually spoken to people about that, particularly apples, because they are not as fragile as, say, a peach or an apricot. Those are like, you better eat them right away or they are a waste. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have deer who seem to have eaten and destroyed trees, but eaten also the fruit. But I think it's really, and how do I go about doing this? I think is what a lot of people think. Oh, I don't know. How am I going to do this?
Are you talking about the food waste?
The food waste, and some people say, oh, what my little bit isn't going to make a difference. But that's kind of the attitude we all have abundantly. But I feel like if I don't do my part, the worst is I feel guilty. So I am going to do that. Guilt plays a big part for me. But, people say, well, my little bit of cardboard isn't going to make a difference. But if everyone said that, we'd have a huge amount of cardboard being wasted. So it's sort of a silly comment to make when people do that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be doing a lot of education and outreach about the food composting program, but that's a good question. Like, what do I do with my food scraps? Well, I'm waiting to take it. So I'll have to work on sharing information with everyone.
So when you go to like the eco station, I'm on the hill, so I wouldn't probably go to Overlook Park, but there's going to be a big bin there or something. I mean, what if you put it in, sorry to say this word, a plastic bag, like the trash bags that you put in your waste baskets. Could you empty it or not?
So yeah, you'll want to transport your food loose. We don't want plastic in the food composting.
Right,
So-
but could you empty it?
Yeah.
Have it full of food, but then empty the plastic bag.
Yeah, and then we'll have a container you
away
could
the bag out
throw
of
it
there, I
away.
guess.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Jody Benson. Susie, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, that's okay. Kind of piggybacking on Carol Ann's comments and questions with the, what kind of a bin, et cetera. Is there a plan to give out more of those little white buckets? I have one right over here in my kitchen. And we got the compost machine also, but we got those from the county, but we registered to get it through Peak.
Yeah.
I think we did it at Earth Day, but it might have been a different time. But I wonder if there's a plan to do that maybe 5 times more than what we had available last year and the year before, on Earth Day, so that people can start practicing and developing this habit, because it's harder. When we first got it, we were kind of forgetful, and we throw our carrot things and potato things down the disposal like we always had. But so it takes a while to generate these new habits, right? And my point is, how do we get to where we kind of have a good concentration of good habits once the new composting facility is up and running, so that we can really take advantage of the investment we're making on that right away? Because the little white bucket's actually pretty cool. I don't know if any of you guys have it or seen it, but it's the size of a bucket. It has a little handle, and it never smells, which just shocks the heck out of me. And
Yeah, because it has the carbon filter, right?
okay, so that's I didn't read all the details, Scott did. So and
Has a little like
the coffee grounds, which are so heavy, so I think it's really good. We're diverting that from the landfill, and then we take it out to our thing out back, and then hopefully this summer we're gonna put it to good use.
good. Oh, that's
Anyway,
so
that's
awesome.
just, I mean, I would love to see if there's a way to really amp that up, if not by Earth Day, because that's only like a month away or 6 weeks. Over the summer, again, to have good habits before we're launching the new compost facility.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to get people a bucket and then there's really no place for them to take anything. But we will definitely be launching a big campaign before, months and months before we start the program. So my goal is to give people like those little white buckets, like you're saying, that have information on them. And we'll have enough for every household. So, at least one per household, and then give them the tools that they would need to use the program and make it successful for everybody.
Well, we have the backyard composter just right
Yeah.
out in the backyard. Did we not get that from you guys? Did
Yeah.
we go out and buy it, or did we get it from you?
Yeah. Is it the one that tumbles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got those with grant funding.
Okay. Is there any
Yeah.
chance to get like a lot more of those, like 1,000 or something?
They're pretty expensive. That's why we only got like 300 to start.
Well, that's why I said 5 times. Well, I want to see us get more. So whatever can be done to get more, I'd be a yes vote for that.
I know. So those are, ideally you would want people just to backyard compost, but knowing that a lot of people, some of the comments we heard is we don't have the space, right? And the thing with the backyard composting too, that'll be different than the other food composting, is you'll get to send us your meat, your grease, all of that stuff. Like there won't be any,
'Cause we can't do that now.
yeah, you don't want to attract bears to your backyard. So
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, anyone else have a question? Well, I have one just somewhat off the subject. On the LA cleanup on the 29th.
Yes.
Is there a deadline when you have to say you'll do it?
Yeah, you'll want to register, by that week before, so we can make you little goodie bags of gloves and bags and all the things that you need to clean up an area.
Okay, so I'm gonna put down by the 20th. I have a lot going on the 20th, so one more
And
thing.
I'll send you the link, Caroline.
I'm sorry.
I'll send you the link so you can share it with people.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Because I've spoken to some people about doing it on the 29th, but I wasn't sure when you had to register to do it, because we're going to need to know how many people are going to be doing it, like
Yes.
10 people or.
And we're pretty flexible with that registration date. It's just we're trying to get everyone the supplies that they need.
And do you get the supplies before the 29th? You
Yeah.
pick them up early?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good.
Any other questions? Yeah,
Well,
so, I guess a takeaway is just the big thing that's coming out is the food composting. So we'll be sharing information about that as that comes up and ramping up, and teaching people how to use that program, giving them the tools. The greenhouse gas study and the climate action plan, if you're interested at all, keep an eye out for those, right? You want to attend those meetings or send your emails with your support or your input. We really value that. And then we have a board vacancy. Join us on the ESB. We have a lot of fun. If anyone needs something else to do, or if you just want to volunteer once in a while, we have the zero waste team. It's also very impactful in our community. So that's all.
Okay. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming. I know you've been my guest before, but you keep changing jobs, so we keep having you on this new job.
Only one. Only one.
Well, whatever, but it was still great that you could come. We appreciate it. And again, for everyone else who's on here, be looking for emails. I do send them out several times, and they're in the reporter and they're in the post. And I know you're thinking, does she have nothing else to do with her life but send out emails? But anyway, I need lots of reminders, so I figure everyone else does as well. And we will be having our annual meeting on the 20th, but the lunch for the leader part will be at the same time, which is from 12 to 1. So if you have any questions, you can email me. And otherwise, thank you everyone for coming.
And can I be on the League of Women Voters, even though I don't live here?
Oh yeah, anyone can be a part of the League of Women Voters. Go on, just Google it. It's some funny thing that I never, like my GOLO or some strange thing like that. So just Google Los Alamos League of Women Voters, because we have many members. We have members who don't live here.
Yeah.
They may have lived here in the past, but they don't live here now. But they like to read what's happening. They can take advantage of the Voters Guide, which goes all over the country, not just Los Alamos. The league of the state league does voter guides for everywhere, because obviously you don't vote in Los Alamos, but it has who's running in Espanola area and that as well. So the league does a lot of things, getting voter registrations, just tons of stuff. And so you are welcome to come. As I said, we've been doing everything by Zoom right now. But next month, hopefully we are going to go. It's a pretty big place. And so I think people can feel safe there. We're not going to crowd together as we did in the library, which has no windows and no ventilation. So we haven't been there, but we're going to be at the University Church. And you can listen to, look at the emails and things, but just get on the website.
I think you guys do great. Like, just very prominent in the community. So thank you for all you do.
Yeah, so that's it. Thank you. So I guess we can just stop this recording and do this. And thank you all for coming. And I'll see you next month, either in person or via Zoom.
Thank you, Angelica. Thank
Bye.
you, Carol Ann.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.